We went to the Niagara Falls one time. That was quite a few years later. But that trip to San Diego was the first road trip I had ever taken.
You had to do it all by yourself.
I went all by myself.
That's pretty brave.
Very determined.
That was determination.
Yes, that'd be a scary trip, you know.
Yeah.
All the way across the country by yourself. And
Second time I went with somebody else. But the first time I went alone. In those days, I had a lot more spunk.
I remember you and Grandpa had that camper. Did you take that to Niagara Falls then, or?
No, we just drove.
Okay, that was probably later that you had that camper.
Yeah, that was quite a bit later.
And then you did more camping then.
Yeah. Then later on, we got to
how about tulip time? Did they have tulip time when you were
They
young?
started tulip time, I think it was when I was 8 years old. And we used to go. Wasn't that big, but I remember one year we walked back to town. We always walked to town. We never had a good transportation.
How far was that?
Hmm?
How far was it from your house to town?
A good mile, 2 miles. We usually, most of the time, we went to railroad tracks. So that was a lot shorter. I wouldn't encourage anybody to walk down the railroad tracks today. But we did. We even walked from Sunday school over the railroad tracks to get home. It's a lot shorter. Otherwise, we had to go all the way around down River Avenue and then all the way around. But the railroad tracks, you know, they came up right behind our house.
What church did your parents go to?
At the Village Church.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, and if you would have had to go down river, it would be easier to go down there.
And that was a long walk. And when I went to catechism at night, then I didn't walk down the railroad tracks after dark. Then I'd walk all the way around. And that was a good sized walk.
So you went to morning service, went home, went back to evening service?
We went to the morning service. My dad would bring us older ones and my mother. And we would stay with the little ones. The church didn't have nursery in those days, so we would stay with the little ones.
He would drop you off?
And then he would drop us off. Then he'd come pick my mother up. But we'd go to Sunday school. And then we'd walk. We did a lot of walking.
Yeah. That's stuff we could never do today, you know, with our kids. And you'd never let your kid walk that far by themselves. It's not safer.
It was safer now. I mean, it was safer then. I wouldn't dare now. Too many screwballs out there.
So did you go again to church at night then?
Yeah, sometimes, but not very often. When the family got older, that everybody could go to church, then we did go at night more often.
Was the Catholic Church still doing Dutch services when you were little, or did they had already stopped?
Is what?
Were they still doing the sermon in Dutch?
No.
They had already.
They never been done.
Because you didn't know Dutch very well, right? But Grandpa knew it.
Only just what I picked up listening to people talk. And that's why Grandpa learned it too, but he was more Dutch people than I was. A lot of those old farmers out there were Dutch. I didn't get in contact with as many people as he did. Mine was mostly what I could just hear my parents talk or my grandparents.
But your parents primarily spoke English?
They spoke English most of the time. They spoke Dutch when they wanted to say something they didn't want us to hear.
Because they had learned Dutch when they were children.
Yeah.
Both of our parents were born here.
Yeah.
Because your grandparents, your dad's parents came right before he was born.
Yeah, they came across, but my mother's parents were born here.
Yeah, because they were the Reeses.
But they kept that old Dutch language for quite a while.
Well, didn't Grandpa's family continued to speak Dutch, even though they had come a long time before, they still spoke Dutch
Yes.
a lot.
Mhm.
Even, you know, they've been a couple generations back, even before
Yeah.
Grandpa, and they still spoke Dutch. So, your family just dropped it right away.
I don't know, but see, my grandmother, on my dad's side, my dad's mother, she wanted to be all American, and she learned English, but my grandpa didn't. But when we were going together, my grandpa and your grandpa would visit and talk Dutch, period. And he always got such a kick out of it, he could talk to somebody when they came. So grandpa knew Dutch pretty good, that he could carry on a conversation with them.
Mm-hmm.
He got in good with your grandpa, didn't he?
Oh yes, he got in good with them.
Do you remember your mom's parents much?
Yeah.
What do you remember about them? That was Gertrude and Johannes.
Mhm.
Where did they live?
They lived north of Zeeland, just off Fairview, about, maybe 7, 8 miles. They had a big farm out there. And I don't remember much about them particularly. I remember going there. I used to go in the creamery, and I just loved to watch the separator. I never could figure out how that separated to separate the cream from the milk. Never did figure it out.
Was it a big dairy farm, like they sold?
I don't know how big it was. I think it was big enough that they sold milk. I remember the cream you can't stand there. But they had pigs. I remember being there when they butchered pigs a few times. That wasn't my favorite.
I remember when they butchered pigs at our house.
But I remember the farmhouse. I was so impressed with that farmhouse.
What was,
Well, it just had such beautiful woodwork in it. And they had chandeliers that were gas, and their upstairs was just beautiful. I thought, see, I didn't have much of a fancy upstairs. My folks' home was very, very plain. And this had some pretty woodwork, and I just was so impressed with that old farmhouse. And it was
so
just,
why was it so fancy? Did they do it themselves when they were younger?
huh?
Why was their house so fancy?
I don't know. It's just a well-built house. And it had one of these big, long farm porches, wrap-around porches. Did I like that? I just remember the house, I think, much of anything else there.
And how often would you visit there?
Not an awful lot. We used to go there for Thanksgiving. And maybe once or twice during the summer. An awful lot.
And you'd see all your cousins at that time then too?
Not too much, We would just go there with ourselves, with our own family, I guess. I think we would go there that my mother would not, we could spend a day there that my mother would, my dad would bring us down there sometime. Kids don't pay that much attention to a lot of that stuff.
No, that's for.
So it was your dad's parents that lived up on 24th by the hospital?
Mhm. He tore the house down and rebuilt the hospital. Actually, it isn't where the hospital is now, but they tore all those houses down. It's where that, it stands right there where that activity field is, where they, I don't know what they do there, tennis, they have tennis there. It's kind of an activity area there, just not really tough. That's where the house was, in back, where the hospital is.
So that was town, right?
Yeah, that was true.
Did they always live in town?
No.
Did they move to town when they retired?
They moved to town, Grandpa said, they moved to town when he was about 15 years old. And they moved in that, on 17th Street, that first house that Alice bought.
Oh.
They moved in, they rented the house. They moved into that. That was the first house that Alice and Mike bought on 17th Street, 17th. But he didn't say an awful lot about who He did say he had been awful upset when they moved to town, because